Equality. It is defined by the Webster's Dictionary as a state of being equal, especially in status, rights, and opportunities, and is also a concept that man has strived to achieve since the dawn of time. However, human nature makes achieving this concept extremely complicated. You can see how we as humans complicate things by tuning in to any news broadcast station where they're leading an open ear in regards to the identity crisis the University of Missouri is facing now. Once known for their wonderful academic programs, the University of Missouri is now facing more attention from the media than they can handle, focusing in on the racial issues that have carried on for nearly a year. The start of this conflict begins with the Ferguson incident in 2014, when the young African-American male Michael Brown was brutally shot dead by a local Ferguson police officer. After this occurrence, Mizzou students and citizens of the state traveled to Ferguson to protest the police department's wrongful act. This shooting, creating a whirlwind of emotion and publicity from the public, was seen as unnecessary and an act of violent discrimination. Following this unfortunate event, Missouri students started an activist group on campus called MU for Michael Brown, who proceeded to start another group called Concerned Students 1950. These activist groups came together to let the world know the university's shortcomings in dealing with the racial tension on campus. As opinions strengthened and tension grew, the university became a hotspot for intercultural conflict. To start, freshman Bradley Becker was caught etching a swastika on the wall of a residence hall on MU's campus. So then, after being expelled and put on 2-year probation, not 4 months later, a truckload of white students began to yell racial slurs out the window to the campus's student body president, Peyton Head, as they passed him while walking by on campus. By October, the university made it mandatory for all incoming freshmen to undergo an online diversity training. Some students accepted this newly initiated policy, yet most viewed it as a tool to help the university's struggling image. By this time, it was homecoming at the university, and the community was gathered together to watch the annual homecoming parade. As the event came to a close, the students of the Concerned Student 1950 group disrupted the parade by gathering around President Wolf's car at the parade during homecoming, blocked him in, and refused to move until he got out of his car and personally talked to them one-on-one. With such a disruption, the homecoming parade had to be disrupted and halted while the police came to remove the group. They were quoted saying, "We disrupted the parade specifically in front of Tim Wolf because we need him to get our message." This group is a group that struggles and fights hard to get intercultural equality for the whole campus, not only for the Black and African American community, but for the whole campus as a whole. They want equality for all. Then in October, another swastika was found, but this one's a little bit more interesting. Instead of being etched with some pencils or like a marker, students decided to take feces and make a swastika on the wall and floor of the bathroom of a residence hall, which to me is absurd. It basically was another spark to the flame. It's like someone just poured gasoline on the situation and it just exploded. After that heinous act, Bill Donnelly, the Residence Halls Association president, said in a statement that after this event it became clear that the exclusiveness of our residence halls have been threatened. Then, not 2 days later, President Wolf came directly to the Concerned Students 1950 group and met with them to talk about their concerns. Although he did meet with the organization, very little progress was made, though. The Concerned Students made a statement about their meeting with Wolf, saying Wolf verbally acknowledged that he cared for the black students of the university. However, he also reported that he was not completely aware of systematic racism, sexism, and parchery on campus. Just 1 week later, a member of the Concerned Students 1950 group, Jonathan Butler, who is a graduate student, started his hunger strike. And this is where the whole conflict begins to not only unravel and you see walls falling, but you also see the students come together as a whole. So as this goes on, Jonathan comes out saying he is not going to eat or take any nutrition until Wolf's resignation. So he's on a hunger strike to get the president to resign from his position. So this carries on for like a week when they're getting mass attention from media all across the nation. And then you see students gathering around Jonathan in support. So with this support, word gets around the athletic side, and then the football team decides they're going to support Jonathan's endeavors and not practice nor play until his demands were met. Once this problem arose, facing $1 million charge for a cancellation of a game, they can't afford nor do they need the extra attention if their football team strikes. By this time it's Sunday afternoon, and President Wolf releases a statement saying, "I am dedicated to the ongoing dialogue to address this very complex societal issue as they affect our campus community." Then in the same day, Missouri legislator pushes for Wolf's resignation. State Representative and Chairman of the Missouri House Committee on Higher Education, Steve Cookson, announced, Wolf can no longer lead effectively. Then Governor Jay Nixon followed by saying, these concerns must be addressed to ensure the University of Missouri is a place where all students can pursue their dreams in an environment of respect, tolerance, and inclusion. Subsequently, following the statements made by the state legislators, the university called for a special meeting. At the gathering, President Tim Wolf said this, "My motivation in making this decision comes from love. I love MU Columbia. It's where I grew up, the state of Missouri. This is not the way change should come about," he said, calling on the community to stop their yelling and start listening to one another. But he also said, I take full responsibility for this frustration. And I also take full responsibility for this inaction. After closing out the meeting, he announced his resignation would be effective immediately. As you can see, the fight for equality is very real. And it does make an impact. Looking at the Missouri incident specifically, there are many concepts in our text that can apply to this perfectly. We'll start with cultural identity. Our text defines it as identity as a situated sense of self that is shaped by our cultural experiences and social locations. So cultural identity is how you see yourself based on the experiences you've had within society. The students of Mizzou, especially within the black community, have a strong grasp on their own cultural identity. These students take pride in their culture, yet they've also had many trying times on campus within that past year. From the student body president having a truckload of guys yell the N-word at him while he's just politely walking on campus, to swastikas being written on the wall. You can tell the racial tension is strong, and their cultural identity means a lot to them, and it should mean a lot to everybody. Then you could say the root to the entire conflict can be explained by one definition, and that is class prejudice. It kind of ties in with the human nature concept. It's defined as a personal attitude of individuals of any class, culture, may hold about other members of class cultures. So what this is saying, it's a personal view. So that's one person's view, one human's view. So that's where I'm tying in the human nature side of things, because that's just how we as humans have acted since the dawn of time. So once more, human nature steps in to cause an obstacle on the journey for equality. Another interesting aspect to look at is the use of network media in this situation. Network media is media such as the World Wide Web, which connects multiple points to multiple points and serves as an interpersonal and mass media function. And throughout the entire Mizzou incident, network media was used. More specifically, social media sites like Facebook and Twitter became an irreplaceable tool for many. The students of Missouri, used social media to rally support behind Jonathan as he committed himself to a hunger strike to get the university president to resign. Even Peyton Head, the student body president, used social media to get the attention of the unnecessary comments he got on campus. On to our next one. Although it is a simple concept, although it's a simple concept, symbols have a great deal of impact, especially within this crisis in particular. Symbols are defined by our text as words, images, people, ideas, actions, and so on, that stand for or represent other things. So, the swastika, for example, once recognized as a symbol of good fortune, and is still used as a sacred symbol in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, and Odinism. But however, Hitler came in and gave it its own meaning of white supremacy and, Nazi powers. So this brings a whole nother meaning to the symbol. And that symbol was put up all over campus, and it did not make people happy. This symbol caused a flame, caused a spark to get the equality then and there. That pushed the concerned students in 1950 to get out and meet with President Wolf. You could even say Jonathan is a symbol that of fight, like he is the symbol of, he dedicates himself to what he believes in. He's something to admire for the students, someone to look up to. And they supported him. He was their symbol. That was saying, we are this serious. He said, I am willing to die for justice. And it's worth starving for. And he made a symbol out of himself, not even knowing. And then for the last two concepts, we're going to kind of throw them together. And that is ideology and assertiveness. Ideology is a set of ideas and beliefs reflecting the needs and aspirations of individuals, groups, classes, and cultures that form the basis for political, economic, and other systems. Assertiveness is the extent to which individuals in organizations or societies are assertive and confrontational. So on a large scale, you can apply ideology to the entire black community of the university. They came together with the idea that we are all equals, yet they do not feel that idea of equality is really there due to all the unpleasant racial experiences and the lack of support from the university. Then take Jonathan, for example, again. One man with the idea that justice is worth fighting for and justice is worth starving for. This idea led to the president's resignation. And this is where assertiveness comes into play in the situation. The member of the activist groups, including Jonathan, asserted themselves towards President Wolf when they blocked him in on homecoming. They asserted themselves to make sure their message was heard. And sometimes being assertive is needed. This group began with just simple messages and emails to the president, and they got no reaction from it. So of course they had to do something to make sure their voice was heard, and that's exactly what they were quoted saying. They wanted to make sure their voice was heard. This entire escapade has changed my perspective on how we as a society strive for equality. I admire the passion and motivation the students in Mizzou have towards the concept of equality, but I also think they could have handled things a little bit differently too. I thought it was amazing how the students came together as one functioning body to bring these issues to light. These students fought, and they fought hard for what they believe in, which at the end of the day was equality. However, was putting the blame on one person really the answer? I understand that Wolf is the leader and he didn't cooperate and meet the needs of the students immediately, but from what I've read, Wolf only wanted the best for his university. I think Wolf could have made better decisions initially by handling these issues with care, but he didn't do it fast enough for the students. They wanted the change right then and there. And I believe students they expected the problem to change overnight, which in my opinion is practically impossible to do. That much change in one night is almost an impossible act. I think that Wolf could have made better decisions in handling the issues by giving those students the attention they deserve. On another note, I believe the students expected the problem to change overnight, which is practically an impossible request to fulfill. Also understand that Wolf is the president and is supposed to lead the university. But how is Wolf responsible for the actions and comments of young, immature college students? How do you control every movement of 35,000 students? You just simply can't. With that being said, I believe the students could have been a little bit more patient with the situation. They should know that change is possible, but it can't happen overnight. I think that the students could have held back on their request for his resignation just for a little bit, just to see if they could find a new door of opportunity to come and find a compromise and work together as a unit to get the overall goal of equality. And not just with Wolf, but the entire administration. The students realized they wanted a change on the campus, so they fought for what they believed in, and they made it happen. A lesson to be learned from this conflict can be perfectly described in a quote from our current president, President Obama. He says, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek."